everyone. You are now rocking with the Locked and Loaded RN. If you're new to my channel, bienvenidos. If you're one of my awesome subscribers, welcome back. So I'm so excited because I gotta tell y'all, I've already been chatting to my my guests for like what, an hour when I'm supposed to be recording, but I know that you guys are going to enjoy this one. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Oh, but before she does, don't forget to like my video, share my video, and subscribe to my channel. Boom, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Joanna Smith. I am a geotechnical engineer and also a professional pianist, a musician, and I'm just really excited to be here with Charlene, who is a registered nurse. Always known her for being disciplined and hardworking. And I'm just really excited to share my story with you, and we'll get started.
Okay. All right. So you kind of told us a little bit about, career-wise or, educationally what you have going on. So give us some more about your educational background.
Oh, sure. So I went to Morgan State University, HBCU, stand up,
Yeah.
for civil engineering. You know, when I was in 8th grade, I remember seeing a piece of rebar. I didn't know it was rebar at the time, but it was something green sticking out of the ground. Not the ground, but I guess asphalt. And it was a piece of rebar. And I remember, I'm like, what's that? And I went home to type up men working on the road because that's the sign I saw. And then civil engineering came up and I said, well, I'm going to be a civil engineer. And that's exactly what I did. I went to all these different engineering conferences. I remember I was a high school scholar. And so we were able to go to California, went to Stanford University, went to, what's this? Silicon Valley, right? Did a lot of different tours, and there were definitely different engineering aspects or different spaces of engineering or different categories, if you will, that were I guess presented to us. And there was fire, there was aerospace, there was electrical, there were all of them. And I was just like, civil engineering, that was it. I was bought on civil engineering. By 9th grade, I knew that's what I wanted to be. By 10th grade, I had done a internship or a mission trip rather to Cancun, Mexico, to do foundation design and to build the second story of a church building over there. And then I had gone to Jamaica, West Indies as well the following year to do some rehabilitation for what we call a shelter over there for older people whose children basically abandoned them and left them. And so I knew that I wanted to get into engineering from there. So I went to Morgan State, and then while I was Morgan State, I got to work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in Wiesbaden, Germany. I was the only girl that was selected to go from my school. There were 3 people, and I was the only girl that was able to go, and that was beautiful. And that was Morgan had afforded me a lot of engineering opportunities. And then I always thought that Johns Hopkins was like the prestigious university, right? I was like, if you go there, you're smart. I remember I used to look at the graduation books, and I would always see the doctors' names, and it said Johns Hopkins, and they had a little star, and I was like, I'm gonna go to Johns Hopkins.
Yes.
And so after I finished Morgan, Johns Hopkins is actually down the street. It's literally 5 minutes from Morgan State in Baltimore, Maryland. And I went there and I was really blown away. Hopkins is really not a game. It does require a lot of time, study, and the whole wave. And it was a beautiful experience.
So, okay, let me tell you something. I wanted to get you up here because I always felt like you were the baddest thing. Let me tell you, she's like the baddest thing. Went to Hopkins, engineer, sing, music, model, just everything, roller skate, name it, and this girl does it. So, okay, when you talk about people that are dope, she's humbling it down to give you the humble version of it, but it's if you know, you know.
Oh, that's so sweet of you.
If you know, you know. So briefly, because you kind of touched on this by talking about being the only girl to go. being in a male dominated
Feel.
field, what was that experience? Do you think that it was harder than you expected it to be, or it was like easy, like it wasn't so big of a big deal, like that impacted you as much as you thought it would? What was your experience?
Sure. So I
And
would say,
also, just to piggyback, also putting about being a minority in this field.
right, right. So I love that you said that. I think, starting off at Morgan was an amazing space for me. Actually, backtrack. So starting off at I guess a PWI high school. My high school was in I went to the Harvey School in Katona, New York. It was about 300 students. We had an upper school, a middle school. We had a headmaster. If you hear headmaster, you already know what time it is, okay? There are about 15 people of color in a school of 300 students. So I was already, kind of used to this. I mean, we're not even talking about 10% here, right? We're talking about 5% in terms of the amount of people that go to the school that are, I call them the standouts, okay? And so I went to that school for 5 years. It was great. It was a great experience. And so, my parents were very adamant about making sure that I was comfortable in those spaces. And so it wasn't weird for me. I was always more like the tomboy type girl. I always like to hang with the boys. I actually played football, like not flag football, not like soccer. I played junior varsity football in high school. I was a tight end and a safety. I remember my mom came to my championship game. I actually got pancaked. That was very embarrassing. And she was like, never again. So I kind of like grew up in that space. I didn't have an issue with dealing with the young men. And I didn't have an issue with being the standout. That was just my life. And I knew that that was kind of a legacy, if you will, that my mother and my father had given me, and I've seen it play out now, and even in my nephew's life, and my sister's life. This is just kind of who we are, and I feel like I'm so passionate about this because there's so many more opportunities for us to have more standouts, and be those individuals wherever we are, and not necessarily feel intimidated in any way, but to move things forward. So in my field, it's funny, as a geotechnical engineer, I was often the one on site. I was doing a lot of the subsurface investigation, which is what we do before we do any foundation design for any project. So I was seeing the project from the start all the way to the end, which is what I love to do. I like to see, the picture, the whole picture. So I take all the samples, we get the testing back. I'm looking at the recompression index and the lines, and I'm like, this is a sand, this is a clay, this is whatever. And then we're like, okay, well, based on this, what we call the feet angle, or the density of the soil, I'm able now to build this type of foundation because I know that the load, how much load that's pressing down on the soil, it can handle it, right? Or it can't handle it. Maybe I need to do something that's going to go to bedrock, or, so it's really great to kind of see the full picture, and being able to experience that from childhood, I think really helped me balance things out. But the guys were really nice on site. They kind of treated me like a princess. I was the boss, but they would just, it's really, I think we talked about this earlier. It's really about it's not about what you say, it's how you say it, right? Yeah. So a lot of the times I think in our field, people have this thing of like treating other people that do the labor in this kind of inferior way. I never did that because before I got into civil engineering, I thought I was going to be like laying the bricks and stuff like I did in Cancun. And I was kind of disappointed when I recognized I was just telling people what to do, going outside being like, oh, how many people you have today? What's the manpower? Oh, did you pour this? Oh, let me look at this column. Let me look at the drawings. Is it, I'm just like, oh, I'm not doing the work. Well, I am, but from a different perspective.
It's the mental work.
Yeah. So this was just something I was used to, and I really embraced it moving forward. Yeah.
You know what? It's funny. One of the things that you talked about was being comfortable in that space. And that I think that that's really important because I just had this conversation yesterday with a friend of mine, and I was telling them about how, I was the first person in my immediate family to go to college. Like, live on campus and all of these things. And I remember that I used to call my mom. I went to Southern Connecticut State University. So it's not even okay. But I remember I went and I would call my mom and I would be like, "Hey, ma, I don't belong here. Like, I want to go home." Because it was like all of these rich people that, to me, they were rich people that had their laptops, all their books. And here I am, like, waiting for my McDonald's check to hit so I could buy my books. Like, I swear, I swear I used to grind it out and make my books money and all that. So I didn't have a laptop until like junior year of college. I used to do all my typing and stuff. So I remember I used to call my mother and be like, I don't belong here. Like I don't I was always one of those people that was I feel like I was smart, but I just had to be naturally smart. Like it wasn't like it was um how do I say it? Like, oh, I didn't go to fancy programs and stuff. It was just like, oh, I think that you should do that over there. And they're like, excellent.
Right.
I'm like, oh yeah, like like so, yeah. And so I remember I would call her and say I wanted to go home. And she would be like, okay, well, come home. McDonald's will be happy to have you. And I'll be like, let me try one more week. And so she'll be like, all right. And then the second week, I'll call her back, like, yeah, girl, I'm coming home because I don't want to be here. And she'll be like, all right, yeah, call McDonald's. They'll take you. And I'll be like, let me try again until I ended up graduating. So, but
That
I
is
really didn't feel
beautiful.
comfortable. Like, and that's because I don't know. I think Waterbury, I grew up in Waterbury, Connecticut. I feel like it was mainly like, minorities, it's Black, Hispanics, I didn't have that feeling. And I think that what you're saying though helps for in the future when you finish. Because let's say even with nursing, I remember them saying about how there weren't a lot of Black nurses. And I was like, in
Mm-hmm.
Maryland, in Baltimore, Maryland, are you for real? And then
Mm-hmm.
I really started to look around at the hospital and realize, like, okay, EVS, the people that clean, transportation, the people that push the people in the beds in the wheelchairs, security, all these things were Black. But when it came to nurses and doctors, it
Them
was like
feels.
one Black nurse that worked overnights. So in the daytime, you didn't see a Black nurse. And I was like, huh. And
Yep.
the second thing that I actually wanted to mention was when you started dropping on the engineering terminology. The other reason why I'm in awe of you is because I called myself in at Southern. We had to take two calculus classes, right? Or you could take one semester of calculus for engineers. So here I go, because like I told you, I naturally would just like wing things
I'm
and
good.
I'm gonna be good. I don't know, but I'm gonna be good. So I was like, give me the one semester. I went in there and they talked about the speed, the force that the bug hit the windshield isn't the same force that that the windshield hit the bug. To this day, every engineer I meet, I run that theory by them to see if they know what I'm talking about, and they're like, all I know, I took an exam, I got a 30, and then I went to talk to the professor after. This is the first exam. I went to talk to her after, and she was like, so we didn't even start the stuff yet. Like, this is just algebra that we're doing. I was like, W, please. I withdraw and went and did college physics. So every time I meet an engineer, I'm like, y'all bad.
Ah.
Y'all bad, honey, because I couldn't even get the speed the windshield hit the bug. Like, everything I was guessing, I was
Oh,
like, 15. I was gonna go like, anyway, boom, back on
I
track.
love
But
it.
too bad. I just
I
want
love
you to
it.
know that. And I love it.
Ah, I appreciate that.
So, tell us about this new journey that you're embarking on.
Right. So I remember reading this book and it was about this young man. And I remember the young man said it took 5 years for you to master something. And it was every 5 years that he would change his job or his position or whatever he was doing. And I said, I want to do that. we got one life down here to live. I need to do this to the fullest.
Mhm.
And I started working at the company I used to work for on the 28th of September of 2015. And I decided that in on December 8th of 2020 that it was time for me to say goodbye. And it's funny because we had a really big job out in like upstate, about 4 hours north from me. And I kind of said, okay, well, we're going to take our time and just roll out. And they're like, well, are you still gonna be here for the job? And I'm like, for sure. Like, y'all don't gotta worry, but now people are gonna ask you, like, oh my goodness, like, she's such a great engineer. We need, like, who else is gonna be able to? And I'm like, it's cool. Like, I'll do the job. I think it's gonna take about a month for us to finish it. If it takes a little bit longer than that, I can stay on board. If you like me for another week or so, I can definitely train the next engineer that's coming on board, and that was great. And I enjoyed it. They asked me to stay for another week and I was like, sure. And the space that had really caught my attention, or had always, was really the space of the exposure to engineering at a young age, of standouts. All right. And I had seen over a duration of time that we didn't have enough leaders in engineering or STEM fields, like you mentioned. STEM fields stand for science, technology, engineering, and math. So of course, nursing, doctoral spaces, medicine, mathematics, anything that has to do with those fields are STEM related. And so my outlook, and from what I've seen, and statistically proven, studies have shown that the exposure that you get at a young age, it really helps to shape and mold you into where you're going to do, what you're going to do, and what you understand. And when I was in kindergarten, I remember my father was giving me like plus and minus problems, these subtract, and I'm just like, whoa, these rules are a little heavy, but I knew that he understood that he needed to expose me to that at that young age. So this year, what I said was, hey, or 2020 rather, actually founded the Daleysmithinc, which has different arms. One of the major arms that we have is the STEM arm. And the STEM arm is actually a not-for-profit aspect of the program. And it is a space where students learn from grades, so K through 5th is a target audience of students. They learn about drones, they learn about coding using Python, they learn about music and math and how they're interrelated. They also learn about roller skating and physics and circles and radiuses and diameters, areas, things that seem so far-fetched and at times feel like they're not applicable to students because it's just so far. We use a fun way. So engineering and roller skating, right? Talking about the different size of the wheels, the hardness of the wheel, right? We're talking about now materials, all materials and science testing, all those things have a lot to do with engineering and how we create machines, or we create products that work for your client in any way. And so through the programs that have been developed, students are able to understand engineering from a fun standpoint. And they're also able to implement those things on a daily basis. We're moving more towards cryptocurrency and artificial intelligence. And so all of those things are a part of the program that we have set, which is not only in the summer. So we have a summer program for 2022. And then we also have programs that are designed for different schools, and also one-on-one with students virtually that need to continue to increase their capacity in music, math, and the science fields. So that's a little bit about the company. It's been great. We have folks, experts on the board, CPAs, the certified public accountants, financial literacy coaches, veterans who have done a lot in operations management as a Marine. You name it, the board is amazing, and it's just really great to have people from so many different walks of life be a part of something like this, because this is what we need to push the envelope further and to be able to create more leaders within STEM.
So is this only in New York, or is this how does it work? Like, let's say if somebody's in Connecticut and they would like to join the STEM program, how does it
So if
work?
they want to join the STEM program, it's virtual as well. That's a virtual option.
Okay.
However, that is coming forth for this summer.
Okay.
So as of right now, we actually are going to be launching in Yonkers, New York, and that's also going to be online. It's a hybrid program, so it's going to be online. It's also going to be in Yonkers. And so we're going to have stations set up. You're going to understand a little bit more about, the drone component, how that works, spatial learning, being able to see something from an X, Y, and Z plane from this aerial space. It's very important for memorization. Also thinking about music and mathematics, how counts work, how we multiply, how things work, being divided by different beats and such. We have experts in the field of learning overall. And so, yes, we have different options. And we'll talk about the website a little later. Daleysmithinc, you can go online and see the different options that we have. So, yeah.
Okay. And so, do you say you're going to talk about the website a little later? Do you want to cover the music aspect of it now, or when you talk about?
Sure. So, as I said before, I've been playing the piano since I was 4. My parents found that as a very important aspect to growth and learning. And I remember my piano teacher died when I was 12 years old, and I had been learning classical music the whole time. And it was just really a great space to be in and be a part of. Once again, stand out. I don't know how many of us you get play classical music, but that was something that my parents wanted. And so what I recognized at an early age was that music has a lot to do with numbers. When you talk about writing music, right? We write different things, but when you're writing music, you have to write it to a certain time signature. Everything is about timing. Everything is about how fast you play the beat or how slow you play that beat. And depending on the time signature also depends on how many counts or how many beats are in a certain time frame. And when we think about timing or we think about time frame, we're thinking about maybe acceleration, velocity, how fast something is moving. We're also thinking about frequency. And so the sound of something, how many hertz is that? Why does that matter? That might matter if we're talking about how we design, an airplane, or we're talking about wind speeds or velocity, viscosity, right?
The bug.
Oh, the engine and the bug, right? The bug on the window. How fast is it gonna hit it, right? Or how do I need to design an airplane so that it'll be aerodynamic enough to cut through, wind at a certain speed, right? And so you start dealing with all different types of like fluid mechanics, and you start talking about the frequency of something happening over and over again. And so all of those things have to do with numbers and have to do with timing. And even though it might seem as though, how does that really relate? You recognize everything is interrelated. Once you get that basis and that understanding of it, and you're no longer fearful, which is usually what happens in our communities. Oh, math. Oh, I don't want to touch that with a long pole. And it's like everything is math. You know why? Because when you need to go buy a house, or when you need to get paid, or when they tell you on your 401k, oh, well, if you take this out before this duration of time, it's going to be 30% of that. And you can only take it out when you're 59 and a half. And all of these are numbers, right? So how do we thrive in a space, or how do we lead in a space if we are not exposed to that? especially at a young age. I'm not saying that you have to be, 4, to be exposed, but it definitely makes it much easier. And, as we continue to move through generations, we want to be able to create a space where we are creating, I guess, a higher ladder, or a better bar for the next individual or for the next generation. And so music really does that. Not only is it a space of a universal language, really, which has taken me all over the world, but it also helps one to process, numbers and patterns, spatial learning, all of these things, hand-eye coordination, um, intellectual capacity. There's so many positive aspects of this that, might seem just kind of, I guess, fly by night, but it really takes a lot to be able to have your foot going on a pedal and your hands and paying attention to the timing and listening and reading. And so that's why a lot of the times you see a lot of other races and ethnicities, their kids play.
Right.
That's the start. Hey, what instrument can we get them on? So that's it in a nutshell in terms of the music and that aspect, and how that kind of leads into the engineering and the STEM program.
Well, one thing I wanted you to say was, because we were talking earlier about how you said you wish that you would have got the experience of like working at a McDonald's for a first job.
So yes, I would say that, when I was younger, I always wanted to like be a bagger at a supermarket, or I wanted to like go work in McDonald's to be on the little thing about, can I take your order? I don't know, they don't have it no more, but they used to have the
little headset. Oh, I know. You clip it right here on your belt. That's why I said, listen, you wasn't missing anything, McDonald's girl.
I wanted to do all these things, and I remember, going into a service to play, and that was $250 right there for about 2 hours.
She didn't get any grease on her. She didn't have to stand. No carpal tunnel. No no back pain from lifting. Just sat real cute with the shoulders.
Just sat real cute and got up on
How long is the service?
About 2 hours.
2 hours. So you were how old?
I was 20.
20, making $100 an hour. Just right here with it. So that's it. At the end of the day, this is something that is a big investment for your children, because like you said, even if somebody wants to work a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, and then on weekends play for a church or play for a service or a funeral, so many options to just be like, I feel like making $250 today. And like she said the other day, what she said earlier was the $250 was her being nice. Like that was if she liked it, was $250. It could go up higher than that. That's just
you definitely go up to a stack. People are sitting down at the organs and they're just like, okay, well, it's gonna be 800 or it's gonna be 1,000 for today.
So the $250 is if she likes you, if you're family, that's $250. So yeah, these are the options and the skills that a lot of times we don't have, because we're like, oh, we want to buy our kids cute, fancy, expensive clothes, or get cable, like everything except these type of things that can really be beneficial later on. So I like that you mentioned that. Okay, so my next question to you is, what impressed you to make this change in career paths? I think you kind of touched on that, saying that it was the book that you read about every 5 years, but what else, like it's like that kind of made you feel like, oh, I must do this now is the time?
Right. So I just turned 31 last rather October 15th of this year, 2021.
Happy belated.
And and I as I said, every 5 years I want to change my job, and I just knew that it was time to enter into another season. It was just in my spirit. It was time to go. I didn't want to. I was telling Charlene earlier on, I had locks, and I had started my locks in 2018. And I said in my second year of having my locks, I'm going to cut them, right? And everybody was excited because I used to cut my hair like every year. And they're like, yeah, she's going on her hair. My hair's like down here now. And I think it was December the 20, it was December the 20, it was the 24th of December of 2020. And I remember I was with one of my friends at the time, and he was all excited that I had my hair. And I just remember being like, I remember that night taking my hair out, and he had locks too. And we were just like, just swaying and swaying just for whatever reason.
He
I
was
don't even
doing the
know
Waka
why.
Flocka, Waka Flocka.
Like I had never done that before.
Uh-huh.
I'm just swayed and he's swayed and we're just laughing. And I'm like, little does this man know that his hair is gonna be gone. And I remember, I think I had cut off, it was hard for me. So I had cut off like 5 locks. And I'm just like, all right, cool. Cause we gonna take this thing to the bank. Like I'm gonna go to a barber in a few and it's gonna be gone. And everything kind of lined up with the 5th year of, leaving in 2020 after, starting in 2015 and then also cutting the hair. And it's just kind of like, I was like, yeah, cool. Like that's even more size for me. I already knew in my heart that it was time to go, but that was also a transition for me. And so I remember like there were folks from my job that were kind of like, can we put you on part-time? Like, is there anything? And at this time, I'm just like, I'm over all of it. I'm just like, it's okay. It's time to go. It's that season now. I've done the $1.8 billion job, as the lead geotech. I've done the upstate New York. I've done working in projects in other spaces in the world. And, it's okay. It's time to move on to other things where I can see other people that look like me do the same things and bigger things, all under the space of exposure to science, technology,
Wow,
and
that's
engineering
awesome.
at a
That's
young
awesome.
age. Yeah. So, it's just great to kind of see that move forward altogether.
So, did you have any anxiety or any naysayers that were like, "Girl, are you crazy? You're about to leave and do this?" And was there anyone that was trying to like
I love that
think
you said
about it?
that. I love that you said that. I mean, I believe that God does his thing, and when he puts that thing in your belly, in your
Come
gut, and
on.
says
Oh,
it's
she
time.
preaching, y'all.
But he says it's time, that like he has
Yes.
given you every single sign that it is time. And I remember, so my boyfriend now, I remember him saying to me, he was like, he was nervous to tell me, but he was like, I like you. And I felt like that was really funny and weird at the same time because my boyfriend, for me, like I'm a heavy, like I work out all the time, right? And I wasn't sure if my boyfriend worked out that much, but I was like, all right, cool. Like if you want to ride with this girl, like that's cool. I mean, I had like to too. I had a little crush on him, but I wouldn't say anything.
Uh-huh.
But when he had said that to me, I knew that it took him a lot of courage to say it. I knew that he was coming from a space of like, I don't even know why I'm doing this, but I'm just
Like
going to tell people
vulnerability.
this. Right. And so that vulnerability and that courage, moved me to the space of something he wasn't expecting me to say, but I was just like, well, you know what? Thank you for saying that because that's even more of a space of telling me or a confirmation that it's time for me to be courageous too and say goodbye
Wow.
because I already knew
She got a man and
I
a new
was.
career, honey. When he does it, he does it. That's one thing about God. When he does it, he does it. So she got a man and her new career.
And
Oh
my
my
new
God.
career, right? And it's funny because I felt like I had been in my I was in my job for like 5 years and I was single the whole, like I'm just like, dang, I work around all these men. Like, what's going on? Why am I still in this space? Not that I was like crying, but there was still this like, this has been 5 years in New York City. Like, it's New York, what I'm saying? Like, what am I doing? What's going on? And this time when I decide to go and visit or hang out or whichever, this is the
Mhm.
space that I was messing with. So I mean, I knew that there were just so many. I mean, I gave you the hair story, I gave you the 5-year story, and
Mhm.
then that was like just confirmation number 3 for me. And I was just like, okay, I know I need to do this. This has been a long time coming. I think 2 years in, I really kind of wanted to go. It was really, bless my mom soul. It was her good graces and her being like, hey, don't leave. I had a really big break on that big um project that was a very expensive, or it was very lucrative, and it was also a highlight moment of a project. I think it might have started phase 3 now. It was a 3-phase project. Um, and I
So
had
were
done
your
a lot.
parents supportive of you leaving, or were they like, "What?
Um,
No."
well, because my parents knew that I had kind of been trying to leave for like 2 years.
Okay.
2 years rather, I guess for them was like, okay, this is not new. Like she really is serious about this. And so yeah, they were supportive. I would say so. Um my parents know that I have many gifts, and my friends always said, and Bible says that too, that your gifts will make room for you. And so you have
Girl, say it again.
your gifts will make room for you.
Mm,
Have many options. I think that we're often given like this platter of like, this is the only option you have. Like
right.
this, so these words that you have, this only option. It's like, oh, there are some others on the other side that we can't see.
Yes,
But we might need to I don't know, throw some water or throw something on there so that we can see that.
right.
And so for me, I just knew that I was like, yo, God's gonna take care of, like, if he gave me this vision, which he has given me that vision in 2018. I'll never forget. I cried like a baby. I was like, man, I don't want this is crazy. Like, you expect me to blend music and math? And I remember just being like, all right, when I'm doing that, I know that I'm in a good space. I know that I'm
Yeah.
working towards something. And that's really what it's been. It's just been me working toward that, people joining and being a part of it. And it's so funny. I feel like I have never traveled as much as I have in this year of 2021. Like,
Mm.
I just came back from Thailand. I was in Michigan.
Oh,
I've went to
honey, and
about
her
5
pictures
different
from
states.
Thailand shit. Oh, and listen, later on, we're gonna talk about her YouTube page, because if you want to see the experiences, live vicariously through her, if your pockets aren't like her pockets, but you're like, oh, what's it like in Thailand? I'm gonna put her link so you can click it, because that's all I do is look at her WhatsApp and be
Oh, I appreciate that, Charlotte. That was so sweet of you. No, I want to say no. I want to say there was no anxiety, because that would just be a lie. But I wasn't in a space of like, I'm not gonna do this. I felt like I had received enough confirmations, and as I said, I always tell God, I'm like, even if it's a praise team, if it's music, if it's math, whatever it is, if I feel like things are getting crazy, I'm like, God, this is your show.
yeah.
So if you want it to flop, you go ahead and don't do anything. But I don't know you to be that kind of God.
Yes,
So
God.
so show yourself, and
Yes.
it's always been beautiful. He always had my back. And so I knew it was time. I knew it was time. And so now we're on to something else. This portion has taught me a little bit more of what my value is. So I didn't mention it, but I mean, my first 2 years of working was okay. But it also was, I felt like there was spaces where I was under attack from some of my superiors. And it didn't really feel that nice. Um, and I was in a space of trying to figure out, like, am I really valued here? Like, is there more to me, or is this just it? And I remember when I was leaving, I remember one of the ladies saying to me, because John, um, um, it is John Lewis, right? Making sure I say his name correctly. Um, so she basically said, let me make sure that's the right name, because I don't want to be saying crazy stuff. Um, anyway, one of these civil rights leaders, she was basically saying, she was his whole thing was that he would get in good trouble with his motto. And
Mhm.
she said to me, she was like, you shine so bright, like we know basically that your outlook for the space is so much bigger than what you're doing. And she said
Mm.
it's time for you to get in some good trouble.
Yes.
And so, that was just so empowering to me, that she wasn't kind of like, oh, you need to stay here, but just being like, girl, just go ahead, get your other 5 years underneath you, and keep moving. So for me, I knew that, you know, I know that it's gonna work out. I don't know how it's gonna work out, but I'm like, I'm already here. So there has to be a provision of the how. And as I stated earlier, people have been coming together, a lot of professionals, and it's just really been great and humbling, to be able to lead a vision like this with different persons that are just ready and willing to be a part, you know, after being in their field for like 20 years, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So
I remember for me, one of the first things that I said to you was, what did I say? Oh, so you're not doing engineering anymore? And you said, yes, I'm still engineering. I'm just engineering something else. I was like, go ahead, girl. And so, I love that you broke it down like this because that's the first thing I was thinking, like, oh, wow, she walked away from engineering after she did this. But no, like you said, it's just a different aspect. And like you said, people sometimes get so into this thing where it's like, I must wake up and work 9 to 5 and do this and do that to make my life worth living. I must climb this ladder and it's like, look, I saw this thing where Dave Ramsey was saying that, or somebody from his branch was saying how we have the average lifetime is like, I think like 80 years and we retire when we're about 60.
you
So
only got
like,
20 years to live.
yeah, so it's like, no, you gotta live every day. Like you gotta live
Every
every
day.
day. So I love that you said that.
Mm,
So what would your advice be to someone who wants to be an engineer?
definitely. I would say begin enjoying your math problems. Try to practice them daily. If you care more about the financial aspects of things, read financial literature. That could be the New York Times, that can be books, that could she just Charlotte just mentioned Dave Ramsey,
Oh, I love
a
oh,
financial counsel. Um, just read different type of literature that have anything to do with math. Um, Funny thing, but it's very silly but simple. Memorize how to add every single number, all 9 of the numbers. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Memorize how to memorize adding all of those numbers together. It will go a far way, when you're talking about mental math and the whole nine, especially like getting into engineering, um, and working through discipline of different type of concepts. So I think that's important. I think also like, having a specific space that you want to learn about, in engineering is also very helpful. So if you, I mean, like, Ursula Burns was the CEO of Xerox, right? You're talking about copying paper, different types of, ways to produce a product, that is superior to someone else's product, but maybe more in like printing and laser and all that other type of stuff. So, if there's a certain field, like for me, I knew I wanted to go into civil engineering. So I did a lot of reading. I went to a lot of different workshops and conferences, also very helpful. I am slowly getting into Python right now. And so that has to do more with like coding, right? And, design in terms of infrastructure design, but not necessarily buildings, more of a networking infrastructure design. And so, as you move forward and things like that, I think that it's important for you to be able to, join, different types of programs,
Mhm.
or communities. I love that word. People always talk about it like, oh, I'm a part of this community, that
Yeah.
community. So just know, the different communities that are out there. Do some research and try to join some of those groups. As engineers, we are often loners, which is kind of weird. We like to do everything by ourselves. I mean, I like working in groups, but I also do have that space where I like to just kind of like figure it out on my own. And so sometimes that's kind of like the dichotomy between like being a people person and also kind of like being this, I don't want to say introvert because I don't want to put that label on there, but I guess also wanting to be independent. But communities are very important for growth.
And
Um,
networking
so-
too.
huh?
Networking too.
Networking, right? Because if you have a community, then of course you can network different people. Iron sharpness iron, right? There might be somebody that might be a little bit more savvy in one area than the other, and then you learn from them, and everybody's kind of like bouncing ideas off of each other. So that in and of itself is very important, I would say, if you want to get into engineering. And then of course different STEM programs that are happening. You got some resources would be American Society of Civil Engineers. You got National Society of Black Engineers. You have NASA. They have events daily. Cooper Union is an amazing college here in New York City that always speaks to architecture, literature, engineering in some way, shape, or form. And those are just things I could think off the top of my head. Python programs and summits that are going on. And so, these are just certain things that, if you're interested, you just basically do some research. And, I would say conferences are always very helpful though, because you get community, you get networking, and you also get to present if you'd like to as well. And people can also hear about, what you're doing, and then you also hear about what other folks are doing. So definitely love conferences, definitely a way to build a network and strengthen your understanding in whatever field of engineering that you like to go to. And you can be any age. You could be like 4 in a conference. You could be.
Really? So that's good to know. So tell us about your YouTube channel.
Oh, sure. So while I was in Thailand, I started this amazing YouTube channel called Exploring Life Options. Well, it's not, the YouTube channel is Joanna Smith. But what we're on right now is option number 2, which speaks to understanding your gifts. And naming those gifts that you have, that you know of, because there are many gifts that we don't know about. I don't know if you've heard this kind of, I don't want to call it a story, but kind of like this mini story that people have been saying, like the richest place is in the world is the graveyard. So many dreams and so many gifts are there that
Wow, never
were
heard
not
that.
used. You never heard that before?
No,
That
but I
has been
like
used. And so we don't want that. We want to be able to use our gifts in every way, shape, and form. So the YouTube channel speaks to the different options that we have. I know we're given this conventional platter of a 9 to 5 for 40 years and a nice 401k. And then, as Rasharlyn said, those 60 years that you've been working, you retire for 20 when you're old and you're trying to move around. I mean, some folks have learned how to beat the system, whether they, give some of their time to state or the army or whichever the case. But there are other spaces that you can also enjoy. And I don't want to say beat the system, but live an unconventional life that's more fun and more enjoyable. In order for you to be able to do the things that you'd like to do and to live that life that you're dreaming of, that you may think is not necessarily as accessible. So my YouTube channel speaks about that, and also shows a lot of the spaces, almost like, how do you travel and still make money while you are traveling, right? Everything is virtual now, so there's no excuse. As a pianist, I'm still able to run all of my classes. Yes, 12 hours in a whole different zone, which means you will have to wake up around 6 o'clock in the morning at the Asian time, and you work it out. Or you hire some teachers up here, and then now we're talking about percentages. I mean, it's totally doable. I remember, and this is why this means so much to me, because I remember that seed and that exposure happening by going on YouTube and seeing a young man who had had the water and the river, and he's like living his best life and traveling here and there. And I'm like, how is this man sustaining this? And I remember him talking about, and this was maybe like 2016 or something, or maybe even before that. But I remember the whole thing was this was like before virtual was a big deal. And I remember before it was, I used to have all my music students come to my space, the music location that we had. And a part of me was like, man, I want to do this and travel. Like, I need to create something virtual. But I know nobody wanted to do virtual. Why would you when you have in person, right? And just to see how things have kind of funneled into that has really been life-changing, because that was the only way that I would be able to go to Thailand for a whole month, and be able to do that. I mean, I had folks teaching a pair as well, but it was definitely easier for me to do that with the virtual element of things.
Okay.
So, that's the biggest thing. Everybody wants to know, like, how are we sustaining? How are we making sure that we have enough funds? And once you create your own business or whichever that can generate funds either passively or on a daily basis, you can the freedom is really yours. And so that's what the channel talks about: exploring life options. Don't just take what's been given to you, but recognize how to move things around and to be able to live the way that you'd love to live.
So my last question for you is, give me 2 goals that you have for yourself. Like, what does the future look like for Joanna?
Woo! My Lord. I'm like, which one, my Lord? One future goal I have is to be able to take the STEM aspect of things into a technical sport level as well. Right now we're doing music, math, and as you do all of those things, you start to recognize that you start to have an appetite for, I mean, if you are, engineers are usually pretty industrious and also very risky with what they're doing. In engineering, you learn to manage risk. What clause are you using? How much are we including in the budget for XYZ? And so it is with life. Like, how much are we including in life to enjoy a little bit more for XYZ? Before you have those kids, or even if you do, what do you do to continue to enjoy yourself in terms of your personal, I guess, technical aspects thing. So my goal is to open up, I would say, a scuba diving and
I forgot to say the scuba dive, honey. I forgot that one.
Yeah, scuba dive. So I'm certified for 60-foot scuba dive open water.
They say Black people don't swim. They never met.
So this is what I'm talking about. Like, all of those fallacies, we want to debunk them, and we don't want to live in any stereotypical space that has been handed to us, right? When my buddies and I, we go, and remember, we all went to HBCU. So these are all folks that I've gone to school with. When we all go, it's beautiful because people are just looking at us like, are they coming here to really die?
At the edge of the water? Oh, they getting in. Oh, snap.
Like, are they coming here to ski on these slopes? Like, yes, we are.
Okay. I know that's right.
And I see them kids when they're doing the lessons, they be like 4 years old. Going down double diamonds. Okay. And I remember just looking at that picture and I said to myself, this is what life looks like. A 4-year-old going down a double diamond. And I'm 30 and I'm looking at the double diamond like, nope. Right. And that really resonated with me. I'll never forget, where was I? I was in Ticonderoga, New York. And I remember looking at the slope. I remember going halfway down the slope and I said, I will not die today. And I took the skis off and walked back up that mountain. And as I'm sitting at the top of the mountain looking at the slope, I see an instructor with these little kids. They look like they couldn't be no more than 4 or 5. And down that mountain they went. And I said, wow. I said, isn't this something? Who's our instructor? Where's the exposure? And it's the things like that that have afforded me the network that I have, the people that I know, the people that I'm able to reach out to, um, because of the diversity of the network. And so, it's an aim and goal of mine to be able to create that space for other individuals. So, technical sports allows you to meet people from, when I went to Thailand and I went scuba diving, we're talking about doctors, lawyers, retirees at the age of 60. Somebody's like, yeah, I'm 45. I have my own company. I'm basically retired. Like, these are the people. I actually got invited out to go to the Himalayas to do some music and math work out there around the Nepal
Get a
area.
+1?
Huh?
Did you get a
Hey, okay, come on through. They need it. They need it. They need it, right? And this was just me being on the boat. And that's a technical sport, because you know what? Technical sports, we're usually not there. But it offers me that network. And so that's one thing I want to be able to expand on. And I want Daleysmithinc to have a technical sport aspect. So that's for the future. We'll see when that happens. I know it will happen. But that's one thing. And then lastly, the next goal is to be able to travel the world through music. I've kind of done it already, but to have like a 5-year space of my life that's just doing that, right? So I dropped a single called Live Forever this year. I was very excited.
Yes.
And I was like, man, I really want to do this around the world. Like, I want to be able to have concerts in Moscow, and concerts in Thailand, and concerts in Zambia and South Africa, and in Guatemala, and so the goal is to be able to approach that. So we're talking about the STEM once again, and the music. Like, that's just kind of the way that my life is kind of set up. I don't know if I could say I chose that. I might just be, what was given to me and put in my spirit. But those are two major goals that, between now and the next 10 years should be reached, through God and through the people that He's continuing to send. So, yeah.
Wow. Joanna, I'm about to send my 2-week notice to my job tomorrow because no, but thank you for real. This is truly awesome. I'm gonna make sure that if the link for her song, her single will be in the description. The link to her YouTube channel will be in the description. The link to the stem underneath the daily
Yeah, Daleysmithinc. Yep.
Okay, so we'll have the link for that, and there you're able to find about the music as well as the STEM program. Is there anywhere where people are able to donate to your STEM program?
Sure. So the Cash App is on the YouTube page.
So hit the Cash App.
The Cash App, and also through PayPal. So I'll put that out there as well.
There you go. So make sure you support it. She's making changes. We're making more engineers. We're making more biochemists. Name it. And this STEM program is the foundation for a brighter future. So definitely look into this. Get your kids involved into this. Support financially, and also follow her lead. If you have skills, it's not just for you to harbor and sit on it. It's for you to pass it on to help us build stronger communities. So thank you for coming on, Joanna. This was awesome. Such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
I look forward to following your channel.
Woohoo! December 5th, be there. We're going to talk about that virtual STEM extravaganza. So thank you so much, Charlene, for having me. And I'll see you soon.